Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you are listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom, as we welcome today The Lost Voice, with John Studi and Jacob Nelson.
Welcome to The Lost Voice Radio. This is John Studi, along with my good friend and good-looking companion, friend, guy, Jacob T. Nelson.
Hey, Studi. How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's been kind of a crazy week. I had an unfortunate event happen last Saturday. One of my volunteers died. Good man.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing.
It is a tough thing. But he's really somebody who inspired me in a lot of ways. He was kind. He was funny. He was vivacious, and really did a good job of being present to people and listening to them and being where they were at and meeting them there and bringing them forward. In a lot of ways, I kind of saw him as a great youth ministry volunteer because of his attitude itself. He did this great job of spanning or holding the tension between being grumpy and being people somewhat.
Well, yeah. You gotta, keep boys in line especially.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's been getting better too. I don't know if I mentioned it the other day or in previous episodes, but I had this group of boys in my confirmation class, and they come from a school, and they're really, really squirrely, tons of energy. And often when people go to Catholic schools, and this always makes me laugh. One of the surefire ways to identify somebody who has no idea what they're talking about when it comes to the faith is when they say, "I went to Catholic school from grades kindergarten to 4 years in college," and then they say something stupid like, "And you Catholics worship Mary." And I'm like, you didn't pay attention, or your teachers sucked.
Yeah.
I was an altar boy, though. I know all about it. I don't have any misunderstanding whatsoever. Sure you don't. All right.
Well, I mean, being an altar boy is the highest form of intellectual building and construct and such.
Right, being spaced out in mass, but just having a fancy robe on. Yeah, these kids, it's the same thing. They challenge me and say, I was just at nativity for 8 years, and why do I need to come back and do a class to get confirmed and all that jazz? And I said, you're not doing a class to get confirmed. What I'm doing is I'm teaching you something. I'm teaching you how to defend your faith. And I can guarantee, this is a mistake, but I said, I guarantee you nothing you learned in nativity is going to actually prepare you for the sacrament of confirmation, which was probably a bit of hyperbole, but
right.
In any case, we went on and had this conversation, and these boys in general have been disruptive, and I knew they would be. They've been disrespectful.
Yeah.
And so what I've been doing is I bust their chops a lot. Which, does anybody use that expression anymore? I haven't heard that expression in a long time.
I do.
We do.
That's all that really matters.
It's old. I heard another great old expression today. One of my coworkers said I look dapper. Because I'm all dressed up.
Not dapper.
Not dapper. Not doing that thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I work with way too many youth, and so not dapper. Not doing that thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I work with way too many youth, and so they're starting to corrupt me with their orbs of confusion and chaos.
But if you don't have a soul, it can really be corrupted.
I suppose if there isn't an actual proper end for what I'm supposed to be, or a form, or an exemplar by which I can be measured,
right?
Then no, you're right. Fascinating.
It is fascinating. Just like everything else we talk about on the show. Highly fascinating.
Very fascinating. Speaking of which, let me keep telling my story.
Please do.
Because I'm so proud about this part. Anyway, so these kids are nuts. And so I'm, they'll say something smart, and I'll say something twice as smart as inviting as they offered me, and shut them down real fast. I'm not going to say I threaten them, because I don't.
But your presence is threatening.
Just the presence. Yeah. Like, they know that if they cross a boundary, I'm going to come down hard on them. And I actually came down hard a couple of weeks ago, because they were giving such grief to one of my volunteers, one of my high school students who's just a phenomenal kid. And afterwards, I sat them down and talked to them. I said, hey, look, there are the requirements for confirmation are not you guys coming to class. It's not you guys going out and doing all these service projects or whatever. Those, good, fantastic. What we need to know that you are somebody who's prepared for confirmation is we need to know you have faith. We need to know that you've been baptized.
Yep.
We need to know that you have the desire for the sacrament. And we also need to know that you have proper formation, that you've been properly formed to receive it and to be disposed to it and to live it out. And I basically told them, if you guys don't start working on this, then at the end of the year, I'm not going to recommend you to Father to get confirmed. And they got all sorts of upset, and they were throwing all these things. Oh, we went to nativity. We went to Catholic school for 8 years. We went to nativity. We went to Catholic school for 8 years. The church believes in that gay marriage isn't right, or it's only between a man and a woman. And so do you, and so that's offensive to us, or whatever. I'm like, that's fine. I mean, you guys might not want to get confirmed right now. You're going to want to by the end of the year. I can almost guarantee you that. But right now, what we're doing, and the reason why you're here, because they were wondering, why are we here? If we might not get confirmed, what's the purpose? And I said, at the very least, you are here to actually learn about your Catholic faith, and I guarantee that by the end of the year, there will be almost no objection. In fact, I'll even say that there will be no objection that you have that you can hold rationally against the Catholic faith.
Right.
And one kid flips out, and he goes, ah! And I thought he was going to say something like
the demon was coming out.
Like the demon, or yeah, the demon was coming out of him, or whatever.
Kind of like Richard Nixon.
I'm not a demon. Different conversation. Yeah. But he said, science has proven. There's always one objection against the Catholic faith that it can't answer. And I'm just like, in my head, like, you have no idea what science is for. You don't even know the terms you're using. And then my thought in my head was, you're 14 years old. You really think you've got something brand new that the church has never encountered for, or at least does it in principle have some sort of way of answering?
Right.
And I didn't say that because it really would have just maybe escalated the situation at this time, because I was dealing with about 8 boys who were like all screaming at me, and so I said, let's back off on this for now. But then the next week what I did was I actually sat him down and I said, hey, this last week you said this thing about objections to the faith and about how it's always something that we can't answer. So I sat him down and I told him, I'm going to take you up on that challenge. You come every single week. You come every single week and you tell me, or you ask me a question that you think that's going to stump me. And you think, if you stump me, if I can't answer it right away, you get points towards a $25 gift card. And if I can't answer it within 1 week of prep, you get that card automatically, whereas normally it would take over a month for him to get it on our current plan. But if you can't stump me, then there's going to be other consequences for you, like going to a St. Andrew dinner, which is for the just serving the priesthood. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Here we go with this. And what was really interesting is he was more excited about the challenge than about the prize. Yeah. I love this. This is fantastic. Well, I know.
They thrive on challenge.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. I love that kind of stuff. It's so much fun.
I like hanging out with you. You are a constant challenge for me.
That's why
being in your presence is challenging.
It is. It's challenging for me, too. Have you tried this?
Well, not being you.
Well, right. Well,
being around you.
I mean, that's about as close as it gets.
Yeah.
To being me, anyway.
Right.
But in any case,
I could never live up to being you.
I'm not sure how up that actually would be.
You're a stupendous man.
Oh, a stupendous. Yeah. Get it?
Stupendous.
Stupendous, tenuous. Yeah. You call me. I'm not skinny.
Let's just say tenuous for short.
Tenuous. Why are we this way? It's okay. I love it. This is a blast. This is probably one of the things I look forward to the most throughout the entire week. But what kills me about working with youth, the expectations people freaking drop on you.
I know.
And I'm not even talking about, as youth ministers, you guys might not know this, but youth ministers are literally expected to be everything. 3 ways. We are asked to be good teachers, be funny, be theologians, be athletic, to be engaging, a ton of games, and then on top of all of that, we're all supposed to be crazy organized, be able to understand all the different ins and outs of the various procedures that we have to follow through with. We have to be graphic designers, videographers, photographers, electricians, carpenters, in your case, Jacob, building an entire youth room by yourself practically. And then... No, oh, yeah, that's right. You didn't get any help, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, my gosh. All right, never mind. You built a youth room all by yourself. But then we're asked to be accountants and business administrators and everything else. But beyond all that, I think one of the most unrealistic expectations that we have as youth ministers is to take kids and within 1 to 2 hours a week, undo all the damage that has done hours a week, undo all the damage that has done to them, either through their schools, through family struggles, through misunderstandings they might get from TV shows and the internet. And I think another big one is music, too, and all the lies and deception that comes through music.
Speaking of music.
And all right.
Yeah. Before we get to music, I want to go back a couple weeks to that conference you and I went to on evangelization. And, you know, God bless the diocese for attempting to talk about how to evangelize, but it was awful.
It was.
It was, other than getting about 3 slices of pizza, and by slice I don't mean slice, I mean little tiny squares.
I know, and originally they said they were going to have 1 piece.
Yeah. Other than that, it was a complete waste of time. Other than to highlight the fact that they have a true heart for wanting to nurture the faith, which is laudable, but it seems that they are, let's just say, disconnected to the reality of what people are facing today, unless those people are baby boomers. Mm-hmm. So we're at this conference on evangelization, and we're the youngest people there by 2, 3 decades, and we are one of maybe 10 men there. 7 of the other men are priests, and then there's one older gentleman and us.
Oh, I didn't even notice the other layman.
And it's not that, you know, the issue wasn't how many women were there, it was how few men were there.
Yeah.
And one of the principal matters that, how many women were there, it was how few men were there.
Yeah.
And one of the principal matters that this evangelization team that was presenting was giving to us was that when you're out on the street evangelizing, the number one thing you can do is get the person plugged into the local parish. Well, problem is, and I'm going to name a name, in our Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis, that local parish is St. Joan of Arc. They're going to cease being Catholic the moment they walk in the door, because St. Joan of Arc is absolutely for women's ordination. They're absolutely for gay marriage. They're absolutely for basically anything the church stands for, they're against. And it's true, and that's not hyperbole. I mean, if you look on their website, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
And that's not the only parish in this diocese that's like that. And so just to say, well, get them plugged into the parish, you know, that times they are lamented, not lauded. And one of the other things that they talked about is getting people to the Mass. Mm-hmm. But the issue, and the big elephant in the room that they refuse to address, and I don't know if they refused to, I don't think they did it intentionally, but it certainly didn't come up, is that if the Mass is the ultimate thing we can offer to somebody,
right,
and the people walk in the door and they are greeted by "Go Make a Difference," or "Anthem" by Tom Connery, or "Ashes," they are going to immediately turn around and leave for 2 reasons. One, if the Catholic Church doesn't look any different from any of the Protestant ecclesial communities in the area, what's the point in being Catholic?
Right. I mean, it's just like good sales technique there, right?
Right.
If you're offering a similar product, you got to make it distinctive.
What's the point in being Catholic?
Right. I mean, it's just like good sales technique there, right?
Right.
If you're offering a similar product, you got to make it distinctive somehow and say why is yours different or better than anybody else's.
Right. And secondly, if we're just singing clap-along, sing-along children's hymns, and we expect people to have adult, mature faith, there's a huge incongruity there. And so that brings us to our show today. Ladies and gentlemen, John Studi and I today are going to be talking about music. And maybe next week, maybe the week after, we don't know how long this is going to go. But we're going to talk about music and the point of music in worship, and then we are going to talk about the hymns, the heretical hymns of history.
Oh, look at all those alliterations.
Yes. So, Stevie, I don't know, like, because you're a convert, maybe you want to offer your perspective on liturgical music, just in general. Maybe I'll offer a thing or two, and then we'll get into maybe start with Ashes, because that's so heretical.
So I went on an interesting journey becoming Catholic with regards to music. When I first began my journey towards Catholicism, one of the things that drove me nuts was the music, which is still incidentally the case today, but for different reasons. Because I had come from a Protestant tradition in which they had, a church anyway, they were very focused on quality. They had great singers, they had good guitarists, they had there was a real spectacle. It was a lot of devotion and energy was put into making the worship experiences what they call singing, and the guitars and all the songs. Worship experiences what they call singing, and the guitars and all the songs that we did, the hymns, so to speak.
Right.
Which we typically didn't sing. Hymns is usually praise songs that we would offer. They put a lot of effort into that, and it was very high quality, and it was entertaining, and it was enjoyable to listen to.
Right.
And I missed that, because I'd go and I would feel as if I was being fed, so to speak. I felt as if there was some sort of connection going on with me and God, and or even just an encouragement from the words that were used in the songs.
Right.
But even more so than that, what I liked about it was the attention to quality and the desire to present something good and beautiful before the Lord. And I really want to praise and offer a good congratulatory Thanksgiving to our Protestant brothers and sisters who, in many ways, it's almost like Abel offering his first fruits. He's giving the best. But when I became Catholic, learning about the Eucharist and understanding the Mass as a representation of the self-same sacrifice that Jesus offered on the cross and the resurrection, and a foreshadowing of the taste of heaven, and that we're participating in an eternal liturgy that's going on before the throne of the Heavenly Father. And then we get songs like "Don't Make a Difference," or
I think in full disclosure too, when you first became Catholic, you and I fought quite a bit on liturgical matters and music and stuff.
We did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me, and a big part of it, looking back on it, isn't so much on the words or the style. Because what I came from, it was mostly it was largely kind of a rock band kind of a thing. Soft rock. Sometimes there was one
power ballads.
Yeah. Or sometimes we'd have those like really cool Baptist preachery singing things. And other times we'd there was one band that we had sounds like Nickelback, which feel all you want about Nickelback. It was actually a pretty good show that this band put on. And so for me, again, it wasn't the words or the style, at least reflecting on it here, and I couldn't articulate it then for a number of reasons. It was the quality.
Yeah.
And what I see with the Protestants is they see that, we're worshiping God, so we should put a lot of effort into making this great. But I think that the problem is that with the Protestant liturgies and the Protestant songs, there's a lot of focus on eliciting a feeling within the people, putting on a show for the individuals, which is why the band's on the stage and facing the people. The people will clap for the musicians, they'll sing along. But with the Catholic Church, it's supposed to be about worshiping God and be oriented towards Him. But the issue is, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of quality that comes into it. And like you were saying, if this is the highest thing that we can offer God, and somebody who is just returning to the Catholic faith comes in and sees this complete mediocrity, then what are they going to say? If this is the best the church has to offer God, then what's the rest of it look like?
Right. And I would say it's even worse than mediocre. And I would go so far as to say now, because I'm a cradle Catholic,
Sure.
and I wasn't always faithful, but I came back into the church in my, when I was 15, and I've been studying the church ever since. But I guess the point there is I haven't really been exposed to Protestantism and Protestant worship. But one thing I will say about Catholicism is that in order for the types of hymns that we're about to talk about to really be widespread, it was required that there was an intentional abuse of Vatican II, both in terms of music, but also in terms of turning the priest towards the people.
Mm-hmm.
And ad populum was never intended to be the norm of the church. Ad orientem is the norm of the church, and Cardinal Sarah, the head of the Congregation for Worship, is the church. Ad orientem is the norm of the church, and Cardinal Sarah, the head of the Congregation for Worship, has made that clear. That is the norm, and it's because we're all facing the crucified one. And especially during the elevation, the host is being offered to the Father through the crucifixion of his Son on our behalf. Not for us in terms of it's to us, but that's what it seems like when Father's facing us. It seems like he's giving us the sacrifice, but the sacrifice is being given to the Father on our behalf. And so I think there's a hand-in-hand reality here that as the priest turns and faces man, our song, our worship, what we cry out is all about us. One of the things that I think is important here to understand, too, is it's the nature of heresy, because I think the term heresy is thrown around probably more frequently, especially by quote-unquote traditional Catholics, than what fundamental theology course notes from years back, courtesy of Dr. Lawrence Feingold. Hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for quoting a paragraph of his course notes.
We should just get him on the show.
We should get him on the show.
Fantastic.
That'd be great. But he says, in terms of the three grades of assent to the magisterium, he says, only the first type of infallible teaching is a dogmatic definition which requires an assent of divine faith. It must be firmly believed. The formal denial of such a teaching by a Catholic constitutes the sin of heresy. The second type of teaching, however, is no less irrevocable and certain, and must be firmly held by the faithful with a definitive internal assent of mind and will. Some theologians refer to the second assent as ecclesiastical faith. The denial of this type of teaching is a grave sin against the faith, even though it does not technically merit the name of heresy or its canonical penalty. It is referred to in various ways as error in Catholic doctrine, proximate to heresy, etc. It is referred to in various ways as error in Catholic doctrine, proximate to heresy, etc. It is very important to observe that in practice there's no real difference between these two types of assent. And the two he's referring to is that the first kind is what the Church can infallibly define the truths God has revealed directly and which have been transmitted to us through the apostolic tradition or sacred scripture. These are dogmas. Number two, though, is the Church can also teach other truths which are necessarily connected with revealed truths, logically or historically, and which thus are implicitly or virtually revealed and are necessary to protect and conserve fittingly the deposit of revelation. And so heresy is directly related to what God himself has revealed. The second type of assent owed to belief is approximately that it's grave, it's just there's not the associated word and canonical penalty when we reveal something that the Church has taught approximately to what God has directly revealed. So heresy is specifically regarding what God has directly revealed.
Okay.
We deny that. If the Church then takes that and interprets something that kind of is parallel to what God has directly revealed, and we deny that, it's not technically heresy, but it is still an extremely grave matter. So when we're talking about heresy in song, I think what we're talking about is maybe a looser term of heresy, that it's something that offends the revealed dogmas that God himself has revealed, as well as what the Church has definitively held for centuries.
Right. That's a good distinction, too. Because like I said, I think people throw around heresy a lot more than they ought to.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's a very grave sin. In fact, I think Aquinas says that it's among the chiefest sins that a person can commit. This is a huge accusation that you're making, and it's not a word that we should use sparingly. Or it's a word that we should use sparingly.
Right.
Except for being on a radio show and what's the word we're looking for? Alliteration is just too perfect. History of the Heresy through the Hymnals. I mean, come on, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Can't imagine it getting much better. But one of the things I talked about earlier regarding music and teens these days, all days, always had. Let's try through nuts, all right? Song of Solomon, or not Song of Solomon. Is it Song of Solomon? Oh, Ecclesiastes. Whenever anybody says, "Oh, this generation's so much worse than the one before us," so that my generation was the greatest, or whatever, it's like, no, you had your own sins, you had your own problems,
right?
And every generation for years, for as long as human history's been around, has said the exact same thing. Jake, you're doing your
To be fair,
note.
The greatest generation, those who fought in World War II against the Nazis, I would say the sins of that generation were probably less than the generation today, because they weren't glorifying things like trying to change your sex because you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
By the way, just if I'm a man, how can I feel like I'm a woman? Because I have no experience of what it's like to feel like a woman.
Doesn't that drive you nuts?
It does. I
actually asked a friend of mine who's transgender that, because it was a transgender come out day, which has been 8 this year. Whatever. And so she said, I'll answer any question about the trans community whatsoever. And I said, okay, born a female or signed femininity at birth knows what it's like to be a man. She never answered the question. Because,
gee, why not?
I know. I know. Because it points out the absurdity in your position. But the thing that gets me about it is that she's generally an honest person and will engage those kind of questions, which is great, in a way that's actually rational rather than accusatory or angry. So I appreciate her for that. But in any case, back to this thing. So music is tough. Oh, sorry, you're going to say something, Jake?
Yeah, I was going to say one of the main reasons why we're going to talk about this is because in the early church areas, one of the chief heresies of the time in the early church was Arianism, and Arius spread his heresy by song. And he would get sailors to memorize the song, and the heresy spread from port to port and city to city because of song. And he would get sailors to memorize the song, and the heresy spread from port to port and city to city because the sailors had the sea shanty song that was heretical in nature. And then it spread through the churches.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly where I was going to go.
It's exactly what's happening today.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think there's some issues with it. And I think that there is... I think at the root of a lot of these heretical or difficult doctrines, or difficult songs with great difficulty to them, is that it reflects the culture, not insofar as its means of expression, but rather as its focus of worship. Some of them, some of them talk about, there's this kind of American there's this kind of American pull yourself up by the bootstraps sort of a thing. There's we have a tendency to think about, if we all get together, we can do anything. I mean, my son, for instance, and this is great. I mean, teamwork is a good thing, but even from 2 years old on, they'll have the kids clean up in the room at daycare or whatever, and then afterwards they all put their hands in the middle and they go 1, 2, 3, teamwork. Crazy adorable, by the way. But there's a lot of focus on together as humans we are capable of accomplishing anything. And so a lot of the hymns that we're going to be talking about, or at least some of them today, deal with those exact two things. It's kind of something that's reflecting the American ideal of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or the conception that we as people are capable of just about anything. Which Inn of Babel. Remember? If we just kind of allow them to continue this way, they'll do just about anything.
So we're going to do our part to end this.
Yay! Let's do this. This will be fun.
It will be fun. So up for song number 1, Jonathan Studi, is Ashes.
Ashes. Maybe we can play a minute of it. Or that'll take too long.
I don't know, do we really want to offend our audience?
We don't. We can at the very least read the offending...
I'll pull it up. I like offending people.
You do?
I do.
Okay. You can play the music.
Oh, it's by Tom Connery. He's the same one that did another terrible song.
Okay, let's play it.
Okay, I already see the painful look on your face, dude. I guess we should have offered, like, not a spoiler alert to our audience, but...
Trigger warning?
Trigger a safe space warning or trigger warning, or an earworm warning, because a lot of these songs do get stuck in your head very easily, and then you are driven crazy the rest of the day.
Because you're given insanity to think about instead of something true.
Right.
Which is ironic, because of the second line in the first verse here.
So Mr. Connery says, "We rise again from ashes, from the good we failed to do. We rise again from ashes to create ourselves anew."
Hold on a second. Oh, this is incredible.
You create yourself? Did you make yourself from nothing? You create yourself? Did you make yourself from nothing, Studi?
I still am nothing. I'm formless matter. Remember, no soul.
That's fair.
I'm merely an abstraction of reason or something. I don't know. But no, this is ridiculous. You're right. To create ourselves anew. Because there's an interesting distinction between the two creeds, and I always get this mixed up, but in the Nicene Creed and in the Apostolic Creed, one talks about God as maker of heaven and the earth, the other speaks of God as creator. And there's an important distinction there. With maker, what's being affirmed of God is that he is continually sustaining things in existence, that he is the ultimate source of change and motion and mutability within the world in terms of one thing becoming another. Making something uses prior material somehow and bringing about another thing, or holding it in existence. Prior material somehow and bringing about another thing, or holding it in existence in this sense. But creating, like you said, is creation ex nihilo. It's creation out of nothing, bringing something from non-existence into existence. And in both situations, whether we make ourselves, absolutely speaking, or create ourselves, absolutely speaking, does entail absurdity for the exact same reason I think you're alluding to, is that we don't exist before ourselves.
Right.
We can't make ourselves or create ourselves in a really strict sense. But beyond this is just, I don't know.
I just don't know. That kind of sums it up.
It does. It's just so clearly a rehashing of what we call the Pelagian heresy, which, of course, as I'm sure you listeners are all well aware of, Pelagian heresy to the early 5th century, and he was one of St. Augustine's major opponents. In fact, there are a great number of texts written by St. Augustine which speak directly to some of the heresies propagated by Pelagius. And I think that Augustine didn't fall into a pit with some of his corrections, but I think he may have leaned a little bit too far in one direction. I'll talk about that in just a moment here. But Pelagius' heresy was, first of all, to more or less deny original sin, which is hugely problematic for the Christian worldview.
I would say so.
I would love to see his actual argumentations at some point, if they are still around. Much of them have been lost to history, and so unfortunately, most of the information that we have about Pelagius stems from what we hear from his critics, and maybe a little bit of just straight quotation. Pelagius stems from what we hear from his critics, and maybe a little bit of just straight quotations from him, which Augustine's frequently very careful to do. St. Jerome also did some battle with Pelagius, but he was more insulting.
St. Jerome was rather insulting.
He is. He's the grump, patron grump. So that was one of the things he said. He said something along the lines of, he called him a Scot, and that was supposed to be an insult at the time. But he was from that area, and the idea was that he was a glutton, and that he was forgetful, and that he was a drunkard all the time, and which is, I mean, I guess a little bit strange for our world, but I think this is just kind of the normal way of operating. I love actually reading some of the early church fathers' criticisms of each other or heretics. Yeah. St. Athanasius more or less calls Arius a girly man at one point, which reminded me of Governor Schwarzenegger, which is just so funny to hear him say that. And so it's hilarious looking back and seeing that these ad hominems were a part of their argumentation. And they're fallacious, but in a way they're done and accepted as like the thing to do. I mean, this is a part of the normal rhetoric. For us, it's just the insult. It's just getting the emotions out, or whatever it might be, or trying to deride a person's character over and against their worldview. And then we completely disregard the rational argumentation. But for the ancients and the early church fathers, you would have all your logic and real good reasons and everything, and then the flourishments that followed upon in the rhetoric is what came across later, which I think is an important distinction, that we don't properly follow that order. Anyway, that'll lead us down a different conversation.
Yeah.
Fairly quickly. Anyway, so Pelagius, we don't properly follow that order. Anyway. That'll lead us down a different conversation.
Yeah.
Fairly quickly. Anyway, so Pelagius, he denied original sin, at least original sin in the conception that Christians have always historically held it, in terms of it's a wound that it's not a wound. Sorry, it's a lack of grace that we received from our father Adam as a inheritance lost. Saint Thomas Aquinas likens it to a man. Original man had supernatural grace. He was in friendship with God because God freely gave it to him.
Right.
And just like a citizen of a kingdom does something that the king finds favor in, or even the king just decides to grant the servant of his royal status and land and riches, so too God granted that to man, and all rational creatures get. He loses it, and now it's something the king can freely give and freely take away. But when the children inherit it, what they inherit is, first of all, what their father would have had regardless. Mm-hmm. And so with original sin, we inherit what Adam would have had regardless, which is simply human nature. But just like the man who sins against a king would have his name tarnished, which would make social mobility a little bit more difficult for the children. In the same way, because of Adam's sin, human nature itself was somewhat corrupted, and this is what we call, and which makes our walk in virtue more difficult. And this is what we call concupiscence. It's the inclination towards sin, inclination towards, as our friend Justin puts it, we're always deciding to take the easy way out. We take the path of least resistance, even when it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Sealed by proper asceticism, can actually attain the highest of virtues, which means that he was saying that by our free action, mm-hmm. we can receive God's grace through the theological virtues, which are the highest virtues, of course.
Right.
And then the question then is, like, well, if man's works can earn for him grace, then what place does Christ have?
Yeah.
And that, of course, is that of mere sacrifice, and Christ's sacrifice was merely instruction and example.
He was a great moral teacher.
Great moral teacher. He lived it out. Interestingly enough, this is the exact same thing that Mormons teach.
True. Keep going for just a minute, because I have
not a problem.
An excerpt that I would like to present to you.
Okay. That's cool, because I got more to say.
Well, you don't need to, because I found it.
But I'm going to.
No, C.S. Lewis. In Mere Christianity says, I'm trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on a level with the man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah. We can't have that option. Even if we affirm... What makes it difficult for Pelagius... Now, I'm not entirely sure, actually, whether or not... What makes it difficult for Pelagius... Now, I'm not entirely sure, actually, whether or not Pelagius believed in the divinity of Christ.
I believe he denied it.
He did. There's a quote here that I found from St. John Cassian on the Incarnation against Nestorius, which that might be another heresy we're going to come across in followings here, Nestorianism.
True.
But Pelagius, according to John Cassian, was that one of his heresies was that Jesus Christ lived as a mere man without any stain of sin. They actually went so far, the Pelagians, to declare that men could also be without sin if they so chose. That's a problem. So it does sound like that Pelagius, in a way, at the very least, affirmed Arianism. Perhaps what happened here, and this actually makes a little more sense, is that Arius believes that the Logos, the person of the Logos, united himself to man, perfect man in Christ, but emptied himself entirely of his divine character to live as an example of what it means to be fully human, with mere human personality rather than being a divine person, as Orthodox teaching presents. And so I do think that it's a problem, but it helps us make a little more sense of what Pelagius is teaching on man's salvation, where man's salvation finds its source. For him is in Christ's instruction and example, because if Christ is not God, and if he affirms the consequences of original sin and concupiscence, then being merely man as a sacrifice isn't going to suffice to bring about the redemption of the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering which one is the chicken and the egg here. That'd be something I'd be interested in looking at between this week and next, is finding out whether Pelagius' Christology influenced his soteriology or vice versa. And so soteriology being theory of salvation, for those of you who aren't into my weird technical jargon. But in either case, I think that we still fall into this. And this is something that has come up over and again throughout the history of the church, is that Christ's life, we'll affirm with our lips that his sacrifice won us redemption on the cross. We act as if our good works are what earn us heaven.
Right.
In fact, Protestants will frequently accuse Catholics of being Pelagian or semi-Pelagian because we believe that works do have some sort of efficacy when it comes to our justification. And there's deeper issues that are underlying that question.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we will say as Catholics we are saved 100% through and through by God's grace alone. Nothing that we do on our own human power merits our salvation.
Right.
Merits our salvation.
Right.
Purely on our own human power. We have to cooperate. We're synergists in that way.
Mm.
But when it comes to the our practice, I mean, how many of us refuse to go to adoration, or say we can just confess to God on our own and skip out on the sacrament of reconciliation, or don't go to Mass on Sundays, saying that God understands. I got grief from one of my parents in my first parish, who said, I understand that you're expecting my kids to attend Mass every Sunday, so that's going to be a problem because I ride my motorcycle with my group with people every Sunday. And I said Saturday night too. He's like, well, I got other things I'm working on Saturdays, and I'm like, okay, then there's Sunday nights too. And he says, yeah, but I'm tired by that. And then so he goes on and says, but me and God, we have an understanding because I ride my bike for charity. We have an understanding because I ride my bike for charity once a year, and I earn a lot of money for poor people. And it's like, you really don't get what it means to be Catholic. And now this is a bit extreme, mind you, of a case, but I mean, I see these kind of things all the time where people think that they can earn their salvation by being a good person.
Right. And that's actually later on, Jansenius takes Pelagianism and morphs it a little bit. And one of the things that was condemned by Pope Innocent X was a Jansenist position, which is called semi-Pelagianism, which is to say that Christ died or shed his blood for all men. He did not die and shed his blood for all men. In fact, Scripture is very clear. He died for many. In the Mass, people got all up in arms when the new translation of the Mass went from the sacrifice offered for one and for all to for one and for many. Not all are going to be saved. And the sooner we come to terms with that, the better, because if we think that all are going to be saved, it's going to completely disincentivize us from doing anything to try and form our lives closer to Christ. If we know there is a chance that we could, in fact, go to hell, then we might light a fire, pun intended, under our butts to actually do what's right.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about the distinction between for all and for many, there's an important way that we need to understand those terms.
Right.
When it says we can affirm that, Christ died for all, as in his sacrifice is efficacious enough to save all man. But as St. Augustine said, we did not create ourselves. God did not create us with what's it called? God did not create us. God, we did not create ourselves, but God will not save us without us.
Right.
And so we need to cooperate. And so when it talks about the many, he offered himself as a sacrifice for many. I think that it is talking about the intention or the extension of who that sacrifice applies to because of their cooperation and synergy, or synergistic working out with God's grace.
Okay, so let's go back to the song.
Okay.
Because we got into a lot of technical mumbo-jumbo.
Okay.
Actually, technical good stuff.
I wanted to do that too, actually.
But verse number 2, I would like to just read through briefly and make a couple of points, and then maybe we can do another song. We have like 15 minutes left.
Okay. Want to make one note real quick, okay?
Okay.
Pelagianism was officially condemned at the Council of Orange by Pope Zosimus. Pope Zosimus. Just a note.
The Council of Carthage.
Oh yeah, you're right. Council of Carthage. There was another thing.
I don't think there was ever a Council of Orange.
There was a Council of Orange. Oh, let me prove it to you.
You look for that. Second verse.
Semi-Pelagians. Boniface II.
Was that in Orange County, California, or
yes.
Orange County, New York?
California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. At the Crystal Cathedral?
Yes. Oh, gosh. Okay, go on, Jake.
Then rise again from ashes to let healing come to pain. Though spring has turned to winter and sunshine turned to rain, the rain will use for growing and create the world anew. From an offering of ashes, an offering to you. So a couple things about this. And this might just be like being nitpicky, but actually kind of funny too. I don't mean it entirely serious because of artistic license. And this might just be like being nitpicky, but actually kind of funny too. I don't mean it entirely serious because of artistic license. But spring doesn't turn to winter unless you're going backwards. So I think that's actually indicative.
Hold on, I gotta read that again. Which line is this again?
Then rise again from ashes, let healing come to pain, though spring has turned to winter and sunshine turned to rain. So, while it might sound nitpicky to say, well, spring doesn't turn to winter unless you go backwards, I think it's indicative of the way the theology of the song is going. It's going backwards. It's going back to a heresy that's already been condemned.
Right. I mean, going back to the first line there, it's so obviously Pelagian, because we can rise again from ashes to create ourselves anew. And before that, it talks about we arise from the ashes, from the saying that we can create ourselves after, presumably, the image of Christ, by our own will. It doesn't say anything about God's grace, about the blood that was shed for us on the cross, anything like that.
Which leads me into my next point.
Ooh.
And this is the case with countless hymns. Countless crappy hymns. The last line. An offering of ashes, an offering to you. Who is the you? Who is it? Jesus isn't mentioned. God isn't mentioned. If we're just singing this in the congregation, are we just singing the you to one another? Hey, Studi, I'm making an offering to you. Because if the song is all about our own action and raising ourselves up and creating ourselves new and creating the world anew, who are we offering anything to? The song is wholly and unmistakably a worshiping of each other.
I gotta find it now. What I want to do with it.
Okay, so there's a few songs.
Yeah.
Since we're on Tom Connery, can I read another one quick from Tom Connery?
Go ahead.
We don't have to analyze this one today. We can maybe do this next week.
Excuse me.
Because I don't think this song is frequently sung. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. We can come back to it next week. But I Am the Bread of Life is sung so often, I think it really merits us
like a whole
destroying right now.
Okay.
But since we're doing songs that Mr. Tom Connery wrote, Anthem. And I don't even think this requires a whole lot of explanation. I'm just going to read it, slowly. We are called. We are chosen. We are Christ for one another. We are promised to tomorrow while we are for him today. And we are wonder. We are sower. We are seed. We are harvest. We are hunger. We are question. We are creed. I mean, that's powerful, right to the heart. One thing I would...
I wish I was choking on more than like a Cheeto. I wish it was a pretzel.
One thing I would like to point out, the only time in this entire song that Christ is mentioned is calling another person, we are Christ to one another. No, we're not. There is only one Christ. That's the only time that God is mentioned in the whole song. The rest of it is just a worship of each other.
Right.
It's awful.
Yeah, that's almost another Pelagian thing there, too, with elevating man's accomplishments and actions and status and nature almost to the level of divinity by his own merits.
Yeah.
Which is another one which I think relates to Pelagianism. And another one which I think relates to Pelagianism, Go Make a Difference.
I was just going to ask, do you want to do Go Make a Difference or I Am the Bread of Life right now?
Let's do I Am the Bread of Life because it's like an insult to the Eucharist almost.
It is.
So I want to spend more time on that
All
because...
Right. I'm just pulling the song up in case people haven't heard it because much of our audience might go to churches that sing good music.
Yes. So they might be completely unaware of the atrocities that happen.
They might be. So let's just go ahead and turn this beauty up here.
Wait, we're doing this one?
You said you wanted to.
Oh, I wanted to Go Make a Difference.
No, you said because it's an offense to the Eucharist.
Oh, I want to spend more time on it. That's okay. That's okay, this is horrible.
Do you feel like we're doing the, what was that show? With, they would watch the bad sci-fi movies and then have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. Mystery Science Theater 3000, yeah. We should do that.
This is Mystery Hymn Theater 3000.
We could do those Catholic movies, too. There's some bad ones out there.
Yeah.
Someday. Alright, done.
Wait, you don't want to listen more?
I'm afraid I'll lose the little grasp of sanity that I have.
So are you going to raise me up on the last day? Or am I raising you up because I'm the one singing it?
Well, you're probably the one who put me down. So, it's only fitting that you're the one who, helps me up. Right? Or...
I guess, but I'm also saying that I am the bread of life.
Uh-huh. I do like nice Italian bread too.
Well, that's true. I am Italian.
A little cheese sprinkled over the top.
Ciabatta.
Oh, I do love ciabatta bread. That's
Ciabatta is delicious.
Yeah, with me you get the German pumpernickel stuff.
Oh,
Nope, I'm right. I'm gonna tell you what pumpernickel means later. Oh, okay, I'm gonna tell you. It's terribly inappropriate. It's pumpernickel means basically farting goblin.
So glad that there's a bread named Pumpernickel. Really glad that the show has devolved into such insanity.
It has.
To match the music.
Well, I mean, if you guys saw pictures on our website, you'd understand why I would say that I'm the farting goblin. I'm at least goblin-like.
That's true.
With the red hair and other serpentine features. Excuse me.
All right,
I don't know what's going on. I'm done. All right. One, I'm going to give this composer credit, or the artist credit, because they used the organ, but they're demerit for the overuse of vibrato.
Also a demerit.
Raise you up. Yeah.
A demerit for the song in general.
Demerit for the song in general, which completely disqualifies them from the competition that we're holding, which they're not aware of, mind you, but that's part of the competition.
Unless they are, they're listening right now.
Oh, gosh.
I highly recommend they call in.
Yeah.
Email.
I would talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets me. Like, who is it that we're talking about? I will raise you up on the last day. Singing in the place of God? Placing yourself as the one who's, like, comforting the one next to you, and you're expressing yourself as if you are the bread of life. You are the one who's going to raise us up on the last day.
And again,
the bread of life. You are the one who's going to raise us up on the last day.
And again, another issue that many, many hymns in, say, the Gather hymnal, and I know there's a couple other really bad hymnals.
Spacing out right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gather's the one that comes to mind. So many hymns put ourselves in the place of God.
Mm-hmm. Which, of course, going back to Pelagius, is the original sin.
Right.
We put ourselves in the place of God by saying we're the ones who get to make the moral determinations for our own lives. We decide what's good and evil for us. God, you play second fiddle. At best.
Incidentally, there might be a fiddle that's used in some Catholic hymns.
You know, I'm okay with a violin.
Violin, yes, but
fiddle. You're right. That's right. They're very different things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my wife would get on me for that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my wife would get on me for that one. Because she's a violin player, classically trained.
I didn't know that. Well, I forgot it.
She actually went to college. I think she got like a $28,000 scholarship for 3 years, something like that, for her fine arts fine arts scholarship.
Let me just pose a question quick, and then we're about out of time. We can continue on the Bread of Life next week.
Sure.
But I do, just to cleanse the palate of our brains, wish to provide some good outro music for today's show. So we need just a minute.
Wait. Just before we do that, I just want to talk about the musical qualifications that Jacob and I have. Me, I can sort of beatbox, and I'm pretty good at whistling. Jacob, on the other hand, used to be in a death metal band.
That's true. Yeah, before I came back to the church.
Tell us more about that next week.
Maybe.
No, we should have opened with that.
Yeah, we should have.
Some of you, did you sing or did you play guitar? Ah! I'm looking forward to that.
One thing just about I'm the Bread of Life.
Ah, yes.
If we are walking up to receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord, and we are singing I am the bread of life, what does that do mentally for the preparation of one's heart to then receive the actual bread of life? You're ultimately saying that the reception doesn't actually matter. Because if I am the bread of life, why am I receiving this other bread of life? Nothing?
I'm just aghast at the lyrics in the song. This is one of the ones that I refuse to sing it. I am the res. Oh man, it makes me angry. The last line I think is all right, or second to last one. Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ. Speaking, are we saying that we're the ones who are raising Christ?
Yeah, I will raise you up. Saying I will raise you.
Sorry, a bunch of fishing poles.
You just hit my fishing pole.
I'm sorry.
with your wallet, which has been thrown again.
Yes.
But yes, I will raise you up. Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, it's this last little section here where it talks about, yes, Lord, I believe, and then so the direct object is Christ, and then just grammatically speaking, and I will raise him up. Well, who's the last him that you were talking about? That's not you. You're talking about Jesus. Ah!
All right.
Go on.
Cleanse the palate of our mind.
All right.
And probably much needed.
Help us.
Subject of a hymn is Psalm 51. Have mercy on me, God. By the 16s, it's a British group, wonderful group, singing beautiful. Have mercy on me, God. By the 16s, it's a British group, wonderful group, singing beautiful version of the psalm. And with that, we will see you all next week. On behalf of the Lost Voice Radio program, I would like to thank you all for listening this week to our many diatribes about the state of music in the church today, and we look forward to a deeper conversation with you in the coming weeks. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, troubling ideas, whatever it is, we're happy to hear from you at Lost Voice.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.